Prohibition, also called the Noble Experiment, outlawed the sale of alcohol from 1920 to 1933. While some Americans protested Prohibition because they did not want alcohol banned, others felt that Prohibition would solve many problems and overall improve our society.
It was an idealistic thing that somehow if you take alcohol out of the equation, that families will be closer together.
Yates County was specifically affected by Prohibition because of the increase in grape growing and wineries that had been happening since the end of the Civil War. The increase in alcohol availability led oppositionists to speak out more vehemently against Prohibition, as a result widely spreading the temperance movement in Yates County.
In September 1875, Francis Willard, president of the WCTU, presented a speech to the residents of Penn Yan.
The temperance movement and Prohibition go back in this county before the Civil War. And the more wineries that developed along the shores of Cuca Lake, the stronger the temperance and Prohibition movements became. So it was building for a long time. It had to do with the demon rum and the nobility of it that we talked about earlier, on how getting alcohol out of the equation could make society better. It led toward the organization of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, the WCTU, and that became one of the driving forces, just one of them, in the county toward, like I said, Prohibition and temperance.
The 18th Amendment, which was the legal enforcement behind Prohibition, was ratified in 1919, but did not go in effect until 1920, giving the public time to adjust to the change. During this year, the public did the best they could to prepare for the absence of alcohol they'd soon be facing.
The wineries could still produce it, so you had people coming to the wineries, especially down in Steuben County on Cuca Lake, and getting as much wine as they could, knowing that the wineries were going to have to stop production. People turned in their neighbors, and that's what it all depended upon was, and I'm sure that created an awful lot of neighborhood fights and tension, but that's how it works. Somebody, would see something funny going on across the street and call the local cops, and the local cops would call the feds in Buffalo, and when they got enough of these reports, the federal agents would come out. They'd be accompanied by the Yates County Sheriff and a couple of deputies, and they would conduct their raid.
Incidents in which the 18th Amendment was violated were recorded in the Yates County Chronicle, a local newspaper which openly supported Prohibition. One article in the Chronicle described an incident regarding a bootlegger on Cuca Street.
It was once again a neighbor turning in a neighbor who saw a truck being backed up to a house and being loaded with cases of alcohol. And they called the Yates County Sheriff, who came and saw it. And when he saw another truck that was ready to be loaded as well, they knew they had a major catch of alcohol there. So he called for backup, a couple of deputies. And anyhow, when the deputies came, one of the trucks took off, and a deputy jumped onto the running board of the truck, and when they turned onto Elm Street, he fell off and got hurt. Second deputy pulled out a gun and shot at the truck.
The police soon lost track of these bootleggers and they got away. Another report from the Chronicle regarded raids that took place at White Top Winery in Steuben County, where wine was still being produced. After this raid, approximately 18,000 gallons of alcohol was dumped into Cuca Lake.
So there were two raids there, and they dumped it into Cuca Lake. And the aftermath was kind of funny, because people write letters to the editor and about how if the percentage of water in Lake Cuca was above 0.5% alcohol, technically it was illegal, and the village of Penn Yan pumped up lake water into their water tank and distributed it through the village to people for tap water.
Soon this information spread, leading people to the question whether or not Yates County was guilty of spreading alcohol to residents. Even fishermen would tell stories saying that fish were not acting normal since the raid at White Top Winery.
Despite these events, the majority of Yates County was still in favor of Prohibition.
Protestant churches in Penn Yan and across the county were really in favor of Prohibition. And of course the WCTU were. So there was a stronger feeling in Yates County for keeping Prohibition going than there was getting rid of it. But like happens so much in New York State politics, whatever Yates County wanted gets far outweighed by downstate New York.
Once it was clear that Prohibition did not decrease crime rates and overall improve society in the United States, the 21st Amendment was passed and ratified, officially ending Prohibition. Local opposition to Prohibition was stifled by larger cities. Yates County lost the fight and was forced to accept the end of the noble experiment.